I can't believe I'm about to ask this, but is Jordan Montgomery the new Madison Bumgarner?
You are Locked On Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You're listening to who? The always charismatic host of this podcast, Millard Thomas. I'm a multimedia journalist and I'm a graphic designer, so please go check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com, to see all of my latest work. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. On today's Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, we'll talk about Jordan Montgomery failing in another start. We'll preview the next series against the San Diego Padres, and we'll talk about if this is a really weak all-star field as ballots have now dropped. So discussing all that on today's Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. But if you like the show, please follow me on Twitter at CreatorThomas24 for the personal account. Look up Locked On Diamondbacks, both Twitter and Instagram, for the podcast handle. Thank you for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I would not be able to do this podcast without you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. It's free. It's available on all platforms, so please continue to tell your friends. And one of those platforms is YouTube, so please hit subscribe to Locked On Diamondbacks on YouTube. Our goal is to hit 2,000 subs by the All-Star break. So once again, please hit subscribe to Locked On Diamondbacks on YouTube. All right. Let's get back into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. And let's talk about today's start and the finale against the San Francisco Giants, because the Dbacks were in line for a sweep. They only have one sweep this season. It came against the Cincinnati Reds. I thought the Dbacks were going to have a chance to sweep. Once again, you have your highest paid player and arguably your best pitcher on the mound. We would all say right now, healthy, the best pitcher is Brandon Pfaadt of the dudes who are healthy. But Monty does have the career, the resume, the World Series ring. So if you want to say, based off career and on paper resume, Monty's the best pitcher, I would not argue with you. So going into a finale where you're looking to sweep, to have arguably your best pitcher on the mound, you should feel good if you're D-backs fans and you cover the team. You'd be like, okay, D-backs have been struggling all season, 4-game winning streak with a chance to sweep their NL West rivals with Jordan Montgomery, reigning World Series winner, on the mound. Great opportunity for the D-backs and great opportunity for Monty to continue to build, or at least try to buy, goodwill with the D-backs. Struggling a little bit this season, this is a perfect opportunity to make a name for yourself, Jordan Montgomery. And once again, Monty just continues to struggle for the D-backs this season, and he was not good at all against the San Francisco Giants. It was one of those starts where he was booed coming off the mound because the D-backs feel like they're in position to snatch a wild card win, and when your highest paid player, arguably your best pitcher, can't get it done for you, it's super frustrating. And now people are dropping the comparisons of Jordan Montgomery and Madison Bumgarner, because you look at the first 9 starts for each guy and it's eerily similar, and it's actually even more disgusting for Jordan Montgomery, if you could believe that, because between 9 starts for both of them, Jordan Montgomery 6.8 ERA, Mad Bum through 9 starts 6.48 ERA. Montgomery less strikeouts per 9 than Mad Bum, more walks per 9 than Mad Bum, and a higher batting average against. Across the board, Jordan Montgomery this season has been worse than Madison Bumgarner his first year with the D-backs. And Mad Bum, guys, was not good that first year. From the jump, we were like, I don't know if Madison Bumgarner has it. He feels cooked. He feels over the hill. It already might be one of the worst deals in D-backs franchise history. That's how he felt after just one season of Madison Bumgarner. And through 9 starts for Jordan Montgomery, it probably doesn't feel as bad as it felt with Madison Bumgarner, but it has not been pretty for Monty recently. You gave up, how many earned runs exactly was it? 6 earned runs in 2 innings today. Your last start against the New York Mets, 6 earned runs in 4 innings. Against There were some teams earlier this year that we really need you to step up. 4 earned runs in 6 innings against the Tigers. He was like shaky against the Reds. Like it feels like whenever we need Monty to have a good start, especially against these more vulnerable teams, it feels like Monty does not come through in those situations. The Reds, the Tigers, the Mets, now the Giants. It's not like these are world beaters. These are all teams below 500 that Monty has not been able to get the job done against. And to be the highest paid player on the D-backs, it's super disappointing to see. But I think you could give him a little grace, at least in one area. He did not have himself a spring training. I think we've seen with a lot of the pitchers who signed late, just like the Blake Snells, who was also fantastic last year. I think we're seeing the importance of getting a full spring training and these guys trying to ramp it up at the beginning of the season and just getting kind of thrown into the fire. It does not look like it has been working out for them so far. And so Jordan Montgomery, big opportunity against the Giants in the finale, and he did not capitalize. And the bullpen didn't exactly help him out either. Logan Allen wasn't great. Brandon Hughes wasn't great. Allen and Hughes are the first two guys that I want DFA as this team gets healthier, as pitchers get healthier. I'm not a fan of either of those guys. Bring them, put them back down AAA. I don't think they should be on the major league roster. If this team makes the postseason, they should not be in the bullpen come playoff time. So Monty needs to get better. Bullpen needs to get better. I would say those were the two biggest issues in the finale. The offense didn't score 5 runs. They've been on a heater recently, scoring at least 4 to 5 runs in every game over their last few days. But one thing that they were able to do, which is still positive, is they were still able to get a ton of hits in this game. 9 hits total. I think it's now 6 straight games with at least 9 hits for the D-backs offense. They weren't good with runners in scoring position, but they did create 14 opportunities, one less than the San Francisco Giants, who scored 9 runs. The Giants were 3 for 15, in the finale with runners in scoring position and scored 9 runs. D-backs were 2 for 14 and only scored 3 runs. I think if they continue to play like this, I think the offense will look like it has looked the last few games. As long as the D-backs are getting hits and drawing walks, I believe the offense has still the capability to put up some big runs, but you're still going to need your guys like Corbin Carroll, Lourdes Gurriel, Eugenio Suarez to start playing well because they have been so bad for the D-backs this season. But we saw Blaze Alexander hit number 2 in the lineup, as we talked about in yesterday's podcast. He should hit higher in the lineup. Torey Lovullo did that, and look at this, 2 for 5. Blaze Alexander, his slash line now is 300, 359, 433. This D-backs team still struggling and trying to find their groove, but offensively, they've been playing better recently, and going against the San Diego Padres next, you can only hope that the D-backs keep the offense going against a Padres team that has also been middle of the pack in a lot of areas this year. I think these two teams are very evenly matched at this point in the season. Both of them are going to be fighting for a wild card, and we'll preview that series next in segment number 2. And if you want to win any money playing fantasy sports, then why not use the #1 fantasy sports app in the country called Prize Picks? Because Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 5 million members. It's the most fun, exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. With Prize Picks, you can turn $10 into 1,000 in a single game watching your favorite sports this summer. You can make Prize Picks lineups in as little as 60 seconds. You just need to pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stats projections, and you're locked in. There's always action on Prize Picks, and this is the perfect time to try out something new. As basketball is winding down, make sure to try out esports this month, because for every Wednesday and Saturday in June, if your lineup doesn't win, you'll get your entry fee back. Choose from Counter-Strike 2, Call of Duty, League of Legends, and more. When I'm on baseball, I like to take Corbin Carroll, more strikeouts. I like to take Ketel Marte, more total bases. And when those things hit, it brings a big smile to my face. And if you want to see a big smile on your face, please download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right. Let's get back into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, and let's talk about that next series against the San Diego Padres, because the D-backs did their job against the San Francisco Giants. Would it have been nice to complete the sweep? Yes, that would have been the perfect scenario for the D-backs. They're still a game and a half back of the wild card. They're a half game back of the Giants, but they're only 2 games back of the Padres for the second wild card. So the D-backs potentially, come Monday morning when I do my podcast after the series, the D-backs could be in the wild card race, owning a wild card spot, and potentially the second wild card. The D-backs take 3 out of 4 from the San Diego Padres. They probably will own the second or at least the third wild card by Monday morning. And that's why this upcoming series is so important for the D-backs, not just to keep pace in the wild card standings, but you also need to own these tiebreakers if you're the Arizona Diamondbacks. Last year, it was so critical for the D-backs to beat the teams the last 6 weeks of the season that were directly affecting them in the wild card race. And the D-backs did a great job of handling business last year to end the year. And so why not start handling business a little bit earlier in the year? Don't wait till the last month and a half. Let's start handling business right now. Against the San Francisco Giants this season, you now have a winning record against them as the Arizona Diamondbacks, and against the San Diego Padres, you're 1-2 against them on the season right now. But if you take 3 out of the next 4, now you're 4-3 against the Padres this season. And so overall, you would have winning records at this point of the year against the Padres and the Giants. Of course, you'll play them still a couple more times, but you're at least in the driver's seat with the wild card tiebreaker over those 2 teams. And so that's why this next series is just so critical. Yes, it's still early, still 100 games left, but I don't ever believe just leaving wins on the table. You see it at the end of every major league season. It comes down to just 1 or 2 games, wild card spots, division spots. The races are always super close. And so you have to handle your business earlier in the year. I hear so many baseball fans say, yeah, I don't care about the standings right now. It's only game 85. Like, we still have so many games left. Well, guess what? You're going to look up before too long. It's going to be August and be like, man, my team's like 5.5 back. They kind of need to play better if they want to make the postseason. Well, guess what? If your team cared about the postseason earlier in the year, maybe they wouldn't be in that predicament. That's what I'm preaching to the D-backs. Start taking advantage of these teams that are vulnerable earlier in the year. The D-backs have blown so many series this year. It's been very frustrating, and I want to see them take advantage against the San Diego Padres, because if you could do that, you are going to position yourself well for the second half of the season. And entering the series, it looks like the pitching matchups are pretty TBD right now for at least the Padres. For the D-backs, we're going to see Slade Cecconi, Brandon Pfaadt, Ryan Nelson, and then Blake Walston. So no Jordan Montgomery against the Padres, and that actually might work out in the D-backs' favor. Slade coming off a good start most recently after struggling in the month of May. He got called up after some time in AAA and looked really decent against the New York Mets. 4.2 innings pitched, 1 earned run. Would like to see what he can do against San Diego Padres, because he has pitched against them once this season back on May 3rd, and he gave up 6 earned runs, 4.1 innings pitched, and gave up 2 home runs as well. Not a good start for Slade Cecconi earlier this year against the San Diego Padres. And it's not even like the Padres lineup is going off this year. I have Fernando Tatis on a bunch of teams, but he's not exactly crushing it right now for the San Diego Padres. He's doing fine, but it's not that Fernando Tatis MVP type season. Same with the Manny Machado. I don't know what's happened to Manny this year and last year. I don't know what's happened to Manny ever since he signed that contract. The last year and a half for Manny Machado, he has not looked like the same player at the plate. I don't know why. Manny Machado is not old. He is 31 years old. Feels like he might be older because he's been in the league over a decade, but he's not old. Should be in the prime of his career right now, but just doesn't look like the same player for some reason. He's a guy that should still strike fear when he's at the plate, but that has not been the case. Same with Xander Bogaerts, who has been hurt on the IL right now, but he's another guy that has been a super disappointment since signing that mega contract. The guys they have to watch out for in that Padres lineup, Juraxen Profar, he is number one on the list right now. And we'll talk about the All-Star field later in segment number 3. But I'll tell you this right now, Juraxen Profar, when looking at the All-Star ballot, might be the best NL outfielder going right now. And I think he's a lock to make the All-Star team. You look at the rest of the Padres lineup, they did acquire Luis Arraez, and he has been crushing it this year. Over a 370 average, over 800 OPS. He has been really good for the Padres. Donovan Solano and his small sample size has been really good as well. But it's not like they have dudes crushing it up and down their lineup. It's a lineup with a lot of guys struggling. Just like the Dbacks, they have some big names in their lineup who are just not playing well. Corbin Carroll is not Fernando Tatis is not playing as bad as Corbin Carroll, but both of them are below their standards. Manny Machado, Eugenio Suarez, both of them below their standards. Xander Bogaerts, you could compare him to Lourdes Gurriel, both of them below their standards. So both of these teams, you look at their best players up and down their lineup, and a lot of their best players are just not performing well. You got a couple standouts like a Juraxen Profar for the D-backs. I guess our Profar would be what? Jock Peterson or someone, Blaze Alexander. I don't know. But when looking at the Padres team, they feel very like a parallel of the D-backs. It's almost like looking in a mirror. And you look at the rotation for the San Diego Padres, Michael King, Dylan Cease, Michael Waldron have all been fine, very good for the Padres this year, but they're also dealing with injuries in their rotation, just like the D-backs. Yu Darvish on the injured list, Joe Musgrove on the injured list. Like, both of these teams, I think, have a lot of parallels right now with stars in their lineup struggling, rotation members hurt. The D-backs and Padres are both kind of in the same place right now, but the D-backs seem to be playing a little bit better recently over the San Diego Padres, and I'm hoping that momentum can carry them to a series win. The D-backs are able to take 3 out of 4. Again, would be instrumental to their long-term plans of making it to the postseason. If they do make it to the postseason, of course, you are going to want to own that tiebreaker over the San Diego Padres. So hopefully the D-backs can take care of business this weekend against San Diego. And guess what? This is why you guys need to follow me online, Millard.Thomas123 for my personal Instagram, at CreatorThomas24 for my personal account, or Locked On Diamondbacks both Twitter and Instagram. Because this weekend I'm going to San Diego. I will be at least one D-backs game. I'm definitely going to be at Friday's game. Potentially Saturday's game too. I don't know yet. I want to be on the beach all day Saturday, so we'll see. My plan right now is to sunbathe all of Saturday and then go to like a bar or something to watch the game. But if I make it to the D-backs game, I'll report all my findings on the Petco Stadium, Petco Park, how the D-backs look at Petco Park, normal podcast stuff. We'll talk about that Monday morning. Glad to see the D-backs in person in San Diego. Glad to hit the beach this weekend. And so I'm looking forward to a nice little weekend getaway. I'll bring my mic and we'll record some content out on the beach. Now let's talk about the MLB All-Star Field and if it's a week this year in 2024, because to be honest, I was filling out my ballot today and I wasn't too impressed with some of the numbers. So let's discuss it in segment number 3. But before we look at that All-Star ballot, if you actually want to buy tickets to the MLB All-Star game, then of course, the place you need to go to do that is going to be Game Time, because Game Time is the best place for last-minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy theater, and more. They have flash deals which save you even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. Zone deals save you even more when you choose a section and you let Game Time choose the seats. They have all-in pricing, which shows you the total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. You can even see the view from your seat before you buy. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right. Let's get back into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast. Let's talk about the All-Star field because the D-backs, I was filling out my All-Star ballot today. I was like, which D-backs are going to make it to the All-Star game? I was doing a real unbiased ballot. If I felt like a D-back was deserving, I put him in. And I chose guys who I thought were deserving of the MLB All-Star game. I tried to be as unbiased as I can. But when going through the ballot and looking up and down, like the players and their stats and trying to choose who's the best guy, guys, I'm not gonna lie to you. The MLB All-Star ballot is kind of disgusting. I stuck mostly to the National League. I don't watch too much AL baseball this year covering the D-backs, but looking at some of these National League numbers, it was actually disgusting to try and pick guys for each position because, to be honest, there was like some positions I was like, there's only one or two guys even having good years. You look at first base, there's some good players, but I don't know if anyone's having like a monster season. I think Christian Walker definitely has a chance to make it to the All-Star game. I don't think he will be the starting first baseman, but I do think Christian Walker could come off the bench for the MLB All-Star game. Bryce Harper looks like he's in the lead right now. Freddie Freeman's also there. But overall, you go up and down every position. It just doesn't feel like there's that many dudes who should even be on an all-star ballot. I know when you look at the ballot, every team gets, whatever player who plays that position on the ballot. But I don't know if an MLB all-star ballot should be stacked up like that. I think you should honestly just take like WRC plus, OPS, home runs, stolen bases, like compile a whole bunch of stats. And if you're not like top 5 in each of these stat categories, then maybe your name shouldn't even be on the ballot because you have to sift through so many names on this all-star ballot. And a lot of these guys just aren't having good seasons. And I'm surprised I have to even consider them for the all-star game. And also, I think what the ballot is showing you right now is potentially showing you that the balls this year do feel unjuiced or whatever the word is, deflated, whatever the word is. The balls don't seem to have the same carry as years past. When we were talking about juice balls a few years ago with home runs and the offensive numbers going crazy, like I don't know why baseball would want to go the other way. I don't know why baseball would want to deaden the baseballs. You would think having MLB offenses go crazy would be the best thing for the sport. But you look at this MLB All-Star ballot and you can't help and be like, are the baseballs deadened? Like, there's not, I'm going to look at it one more time. There's not one first baseman currently with a 900 OPS. Like, first baseman is usually the power position, usually has 2 or 3 MVP candidates every year. And right now, you look at first base for the National League, not one guy with a 900 OPS. You look at second base, it feels like it's either Nolan Gorman, or Ketel Marte. Like, second base in the NL is absolutely so weak. I think Ketel Marte is a lock to make the All-Star game as it currently stands for the D-backs, unless he just goes in a tailspin for the next couple months. You look at third base, I really wasn't loving any of the options at third base either. Like, of course, Eugenio has been bad, but I'm like, if Eugenio heats up for the next 6 weeks, like maybe he could play his way into the All-Star game. I think I voted Alec Baum for the All-Star game for third base in the National League so far. Goes shortstop. Shortstop's not that strong. It's Mookie Betts, of course, leading the position. He looks dominant. He's one of the best players in the sport. But then after Mookie Betts, there's really not a whole lot of dudes who make you feel good about selecting them for the All-Star game. And to be honest, the position that surprised me the most was the NL outfield because I felt like there was not a position that looked worse on paper that was more loaded with names than the NL outfield because, of course, you have to select 3 names for each outfield spot in the All-Star ballot. And to be honest, it was hard to find 3 names in the National League outfield, which is crazy to say because each team in the NL is sending at least 3 dudes to be on the ballot to potentially get chosen. And right now, it was hard to find 3 guys to even choose. That's what I'm saying. You look at Juraxen Profar, he's like by far having the best season of any National League outfielder. And of course, 329 average, 8 home runs, 915 OPS. Like, he's having an incredible season, but there's really no one even close to him. If you just look at the normal counting numbers, the only other guy that's even close to a profar who I actually voted for is a Christian Yelich. He's the only other guy that's even in like the same ballpark. But then after those two guys, it falls off a cliff. You're looking at like Elliot Ramos potentially of the Giants, who has like no sample size to his name. Like, there's even a world. I don't think it's that possible of a world, but there is a world. If he bats over 290 by the All-Star break with near 20 steals, Jake McCarthy could play his way into the All-Star game. Like, that's how hard it is to find a third outfielder right now. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility that if Lourdes Gurriel gets hot, he can make the All-Star game too. Like, that third outfield spot, I think, is wide open for the NL All-Star game right now. I would give it to Teoscar because that's who I voted for today, but we're going to do this exercise a couple times. I'll actually give you my official ballot in the future. Today was like my first mock-up ballot, so I don't want to talk about it too much. I did vote for Ketel Marte. He was the only D-backs player I voted for the All-Star game, but I think a Christian Walker gets consideration. Truly, I do think a Jake McCarthy might need some consideration as that third outfielder for the National League game. But overall, it's a disgusting ballot. I encourage everyone to go home, do your own ballot, because it looks crazy when you look at the numbers. Go vote for as many D-backs players as you want. I'm going to be unbiased, but I don't care if the fans are biased, because as fans, you should get as many D-backs players as you can into the All-Star game, because why not? We'll talk about this exercise a few more times moving forward. We'll give a couple more ballots, my selections for the All-Star game moving forward. But right now, I just want to talk about how it feels like the baseballs are a dead end and offense is not on the uptick, because when you look at that ballot, man, oh man, some of those numbers are absolutely disgusting. Now, that's it for this edition of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Come back tomorrow for more Diamondbacks news coverage and insight. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy. Doses.